Iffy.
How's everybody Saturday? Okay, who saw Geeks vs. Nerds? Dorks and Dungeons? Stargazer Soiree? MHA After Party? Huh? Oh, I was the only fool at that one. All right then. So, without further ado, we all know who we are here to see, Mr. Kris Holden-Ried.
Halloween Sunday morning. Good job.
Oh, we're not fooling around here in the facts? No, we're not.
Oh, no, you never did.
No.
So hello, everyone. Does this work? Yes, it does.
Uh-oh, he's got his low voice.
So who hasn't slept? Anyone? Any real hardcore one? Anyone? Anyone? No? Okay, good for you all. Very responsible adults.
I believe that the extra hour was some sort of Hal Con miracle.
That's right.
I don't know exactly how they made that happen, but it was a Hal Con miracle. I spent it in a bathtub full of bubbles.
Nice, well done. I woke up and it was still 1 o'clock. I was like, this is awesome. I'm coming back to bed. Yeah. So how's everyone today? A little bit tired? Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Are you? Yeah.
Day 3. It's always I love it because it's the last hurrah and everybody's in it to win it, but it's the last day.
All good cons must come to an end.
This is true.
So how do you want to do this? You want to open it up to some questions, or?
I believe we have a microphone behind that camera.
Does anyone have any questions this morning? Is everyone just like, please just entertain me for 45 minutes? I don't have any energy.
Do you have any coffee?
Awesome. I don't either.
Oh, I can totally play.
Can you?
That's why they give me the microphone.
Before I left Toronto, my son was sick with a cold, and just over the last 2 days, I realized that he gave me it as a little gift, a little part of the gift, which you can hear in my voice.
Patient 0 of Con Crud this year, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Any shade?
Don't shake my hand today.
So I'm a huge Lost Girl fan.
You are.
I
You're not
know.
so huge. You're kind of petite, Lost Girl fan. FYI. I don't know about yourself.
Small package, huge fandom. You know?
Right.
Yep. And I'm sure that you get asked about this all the time. There's a particular episode where you all swap bodies.
Never heard it before.
I love Kenzie, and she's hilarious and adorable. And much like me, this teeny tiny little petite
Powerhouse.
Yeah. How much fun or difficult was it to try and make somebody my size have that wolf presence, and somebody your size be that little petite spitfire?
I think in a way she had a harder job than me, because Dyson has a certain body language which is really hard to do in high heels, she found out. And like there's a certain postural
Everything
thing.
is really hard to do in high heels.
Not for Ksenia Solo. She's very talented in the pumps. But yeah, so she kept complaining about a sore back, and all I had to do was really let my inner goofy 6-year-old, transvestite side out. We all have deep in us somewhere, and just come out to play. But yeah, it was a great experience. I mean, we would sit and work with each other, and it was very collaborative. We would go over, we would just help each other out on or off set, reading the lines, videotaping each other, how we would do it. And we were all in the doll for the most part shooting that, so if we needed to see how someone would do something with a certain mannerism, they were right there to do it. And that's how that kind of perching, Kenzie or Ksenia always perched Kenzie, whether, I don't know if it's because she's petite herself, but she would always, like if she was here, for instance, she wouldn't be sitting here, she would like be kneeling on that table over there just to get a little higher or something. So I started doing that, so I was like tucking my body up in like this kneeling position on the stool.
No, it's
fun.
It's this one.
It's that one, yeah, that's
Yeah.
I do it all the time
Yeah.
so that you can see.
Yeah, that's a K-star move right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a lot of fun, that one. We were worried that it wasn't going to fly. Like, we were like, well, Jesus, can we do this? Are people going to buy into this? Or are we going to look like fools? And everyone loved
It was.
I think it is still the audience favorite, sort of all time, of all Lost Girl time.
Did you have a particular favorite episode, either to film or for the story that was happening within?
There was some really good ones that I enjoyed a lot of. I mean, the one that I enjoyed personally, because it was a Dyson sort of storyline, was the Brotherhood of the Wolf, I believe it was called. It was like 206, where we got to go in flashback, and it was the one where it was the whole story with the Norn and all that kind of stuff, where Kiara's character was introduced. And I thought that was just, it was just a fun, to go back into a period piece. And I think it was the first time that we had done that in the show, and it just felt like all of a sudden the show got bigger. And I wish we'd been able to do that more with other people's. And like, originally when we got into this, I really was hoping that this would like bridge different eras and we could move it around a little bit. But such is the limit of Canadian television budgeting that you can't really do you can't really just go off to Tokyo for the weekend to fly the Japanese episode.
Yeah.
We did French sort of Renaissance time, or not. I don't know what century that took, 15th century, which was fun.
Still no questions? Oh, you want to do it? Come on. What's your name, sweetie?
Lily.
Hi, Lily. Good to see you again.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us again.
Hey.
Nice.
This is a silly question, but I was just wondering if you had to live with one of the Lost Girl characters for the rest of your life, who would you want to live with?
Oh, wow. That's a tricky question.
Is Paul backstage? I hope not. I don't know the answer for this.
Oh my God. Well, somebody that you could get busy with, probably, only one, huh? Well, I gotta go with Bo. Come on. The humans are gonna die. But we seem to have pretty good chemistry at us, all gonna. So.
Thank you.
Good one.
Cheers. I know it's like pulling teeth this morning.
Well, it's going to be a race now. We got two.
Hi.
Hi.
So I was just kind of wondering how it felt to go from playing good guy werewolf to werewolf on steroids in Underworld.
It was actually a lot of fun. The directors, it was a co-directing team for Underworld. It was two Swedish guys, and Lost Girl hadn't been aired in Sweden at all, so they had no idea when I auditioned for it that I'd actually done this before. And when I showed up on set, they were like, "You're really good at these." And I didn't want to really let them know at that point about Lost Girl. It was, you're always a little concerned about character crossover. And so I just, I did a lot of work, and I a lot of wolves, watching wolf behavior in the zoo, whatever, just having fun. But that was because, playing Dyson is a much more interesting character because I have so much more to explore with him. But to just kind of go with a very specific and singular sort of real badass kind of character. The thing was, though, actually the original script of that was actually quite good and complicated and had a lot more of the storyline between the werewolves and the vampires. But then at a certain point, that was when that film was made about 5 years ago, was just when 3D was it was becoming almost like a marketing tool. And so the producers decided, let's make this 3D. And so a lot of the storyline got sort of sidelined to just save budget for as many flying bullets and knives and spit and blood as we could get shooting out of the screen. And then they shot it in 3D, which was actually a really cool experience, and the limitations and how that actually changes filming, technical filming styles. So yeah, there's that scene where I'm like talking with my father, and it's like, and I say, if only Mother could have been here, something like that. That's like the only little window of like, that there was actually an arc for those guys, and like there was something more about the werewolves than just, we're bloodthirsty, massive creatures who are trying to rise back up and like fight back against humanity and finally extinguish the vampire threat. So, but it was a lot of fun. It was a good group.
Thanks.
Cheers.
You've probably been asked this already this weekend somewhere along the line, but just wondering what projects are in the making for you.
In the making right now, I'm working on something of my own that I've been sitting on for a while now, but I'm trying to write it myself, and so I've been struggling with it over the last year with just work and family, just trying to develop the discipline, the writing schedule. But now, as of actually this weekend, my work obligations are done. I've been away for most of the last 2 months. So my goal is November, December to have a bit of a first draft, at least by Christmas, of a feature that I'd like to either act in or direct. I directed a short film in the spring, which we're just going through post-production now. So this is all sort of trying to build between, to me, kind of taking a step behind the camera. I'll always act, I love it, but it's not the end-all be-all for me, and I want to start developing some of the ideas that I have of my own. So that's where my focus is right now. Cheers. Oh, and I got to walk around a really cool video game with some Welsh guy you made. A moose, something like that.
Yeah.
Got to run around
I think we've
England.
seen his face in these parts.
Yeah. That handsome, charismatic fellow. So yeah, we did a little role reversal there. He was the good guy, and I was the big, sort of bludgeoning bad guy in that one. Has anyone actually played that game yet?
Not yet.
You have? No one here is an Assassin's Creed player yet?
Oh, we got a hand over there too.
Got a
I'm
hand over
waiting
there?
for the PC.
How far have you made it?
Sequence 8.
Okay, I don't know what that means. Have you seen my character yet? Oh yeah, okay, cool. Do I sound like me? Is it recognizable at all?
I wasn't sure, but yeah.
Alright, cool.
I need to think about it.
I'm curious too, except for I'm not good enough for those kind of games to make it to that point. I'll like get hit by a train or fall off a roof too many times.
It's all about the YouTube cutscenes.
That's true, I hear you can do that. You can watch the whole movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some wonderful gamer takes the time to record what they do and get rid of all the playing, and you can just watch the cutscenes.
Just watch it.
Wow, I'm surprised there's only one Assassin's Creed player in Alice. Interesting. Okay, who here hasn't watched Lost Girl? Wow, alright, well, you can all stone her later.
So your marathon is going to start probably tomorrow. There's 5 seasons. Prepare yourself.
It's only 77 hours. I mean, come on, you can crank that out in a week.
There's a
Real
training
commitment.
schedule and a regime, but it's fine. Do we have another question? My turn again. All right then.
Oh, we got someone.
Oh,
Good morning.
Good morning, indeed.
I remember you playing the bad cop on the bridge.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Was, when you left that, was Lost Girl right, did that come up next, or was there something in between?
No, that was, I think, oh, you know what? We had shot the pilot for Lost Girl. What a lot of you don't know is that in between, we shot the pilot of Lost Girl in January of, I don't know, 2009. But we didn't start shooting season 1 until February of 2010, so there was a whole year off in between waiting to get picked up or just getting the show sort of packaged properly. So yeah, in between there, that director's name is John Fawcett, and he was also the director of our pilot. So we had a good working relationship, and just kind of, it was such a different character for me to play, and something that I really wanted to go for. Like that's kind of what my next thing is, besides developing my own stuff, is I'm looking for a very contrasting character to Dyson. And that's what The Bridge offered. That was a lot of fun. And so yeah, we shot that. And then I went off to Morocco and shot Ben-Hur. And in that time, they had been picked up, and CBS wanted more of my character in it, but then we were going back to Lost Girl, so they created a day, they brought everybody in on a Saturday and shot one day of just weird pickup little scenes for me that they could put throughout the series, the season. And so at the end of the season, they were pulling me out of jail, and the whole thing was that if it had gone season 2, if some lead actor hadn't been a total tool and destroyed that series, yeah, it would have been very much, I was kind of rising up through the prison system, and then it would have been sort of like, how do these guys meet head to head as he's become released and now as part of the criminal world. And I was really looking forward to doing that. I thought it would have been a lot of fun.
I enjoyed it.
Thanks. It was an interesting show. It was too bad it only did 1 season.
so do you prefer to be the good guy or the bad guy? Or is it really just about the character that is good or bad for you?
Yeah, it's more about the character, exactly. And kind of what I've played most recently. With Dyson, because I had to maintain the look for Dyson, so it was, I would always kind of do projects around it, and I had to look like that, and for the most part I was playing good guys. So, I mean, except for Quinn from Underworld. But yeah, so it's all about the part in the project, honestly. I'm looking forward to some interesting new stuff.
Nice. So, being here at the convention, is there anything that you are a big fan of?
Oh my God, yeah. I love this kind of world. Like when I was a kid, I grew up watching Robotech. Like 11, I don't know where we were. I got it by not streaming in, focusing my antenna towards Buffalo. I think it was still the Commander Tom show. Does anyone here remember Commander Tom show, or is that only from Buffalo? Yeah, it's from Buffalo, and it didn't get all the way up here. But yeah, 11 o'clock every Saturday and Sunday morning, I would sneak off and get my little Robotech fix. I think I watched all of it. But even, like, I grew up in a small little farming town, and I'm an only child, so my buddies, we got into Dungeons and Dragons back when I was like 11, 12. And then off of there I started reading Dragonlance. Oh yeah, I mean, God, the first 6 by Margaret Weis and Tracy Hickman, that was seminal reading for me. I didn't read the Bible, I read about elves and dragons, and that's where a lot of my internal mythology sort of got based. And then yeah, moved on to like Tolkien, but all that. I was the kid who was like playing Dungeons and Dragons by myself, rolling the dice, and going out in the woods with like bow and arrow and my trusty dog. But then, yeah, I guess then TSR put Dungeons and Dragons into video games, and I had a Commodore 64. And yeah, I loved that world. Like, I don't know, I guess that was the beginning of the gamer in me, and I would spend many an hour playing that. And then when I was older, World of Warcraft came out, and I was like, wow, this is the game that I've been waiting for all my life. Like, holy crap, to play a night elf running around, and it had all the same structures, but it was like real time. And yeah, so I played that for a few years, and then I had to extricate myself from that time pit that is WoW.
Have you had a chance to check the gaming floor, being there?
I have. I've walked around, but man, these games are so complex now. Like, honestly, the board games. I mean, I have an 8-year-old boy, so the most complex I've gotten is like Pengaloo lately. You know, it's like, although we are working on chess, and he's actually taking to it. But yeah, there's these novels now that they're actually older. But remember the what are they called?
Choose Your Own Adventure.
Choose Your Own Adventure, yeah. But these ones are like, you actually roll the dice, so it's like, whether your character hits or misses or like beats the bad guy, you're actually using the dice, and then you make a decision off that. I don't know if they're new or if they're a circa 90s or not, but anyway, I'm gonna try to find something like that for my kid. Anything to encourage reading in an 8-year-old boy is good.
For sure. Oh.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm a huge fan of the Tudors.
Thank you.
And I was just wondering what your experience was like on the set and everything.
That was a wonderful show to be involved with. It was, it came to me very happenstance. I had played the role of Noel Redding, who's the bass player of the Jimi Hendrix Experience, in Toronto for a producer who became post-production supervising producer for the Tudors. And they were looking for another young man, and I was literally in an acting class, and got a call from my agent. He's like, hey, there's a producer and director in town. Can you go out and meet them? It's about a project about Henry VIII. And I was like, absolutely. So I went, skipped out during break, met these guys. They wanted to hear my British accent. They wanted to hear about it. I also come from a horseback riding background. That was the farm days. So I have these skills that are very good for period piece stuff. And yeah, I met them literally on a Tuesday. We chatted for a while. And on Thursday, they flew me down to New York for a screen test in front of the network. And on Monday, I was on an airplane to Ireland, where I spent 5.5 months with some of the greatest people, like Sam Neill, Jeremy Northam, Gabrielle Anwar, Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, and just that whole Irish crew. And we were housed outside of Bray, or we were housed outside of Dublin. We were shooting in Bray. and we were this little group that didn't know what we were making. Like, we didn't know if this show, we didn't think it was going to be picked up again, to be honest. We thought, who the hell's going to want to watch this, right? So we were having dinner parties every weekend, and it was just one of these lovely experiences where, you know, you're abroad and in a magical place like Ireland, yeah, just working with a great group of people on what turned out to be a fantastic project. I mean, to put it into perspective for you, the difference between the Tudors and something like Lost Girl. Lost Girl, our budget per episode is about $1.3 to $1.5 million. On the pilot episode of the Tudors, we went $4 million over budget. Yeah. I mean, some people got fired over that. I wasn't one of them, but yeah, but that's just the kind of money differences and what that allows you to do, and so that's why the Tudors just kind of felt so much richer, because it was.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hello.
Bigger Lost fan. Big fan of Lost Girl. In fact, I've referenced your show in some of my sociology classes because of it's one of the only shows that's been airing that's very bisexual characters. And I was wondering, because you recently finished Lost Girl, and I was wondering how those last days on set were.
Oh my God, it's so emotional. Like, Anna Silk was having a hard time doing a single take without bawling her eyes out. Yeah, no, I mean, we were all. It was the end of, I think it had been almost 6 years for our, because like I said, our involvement started in 2009, and then there was a year off, and then another year off in between season 1 and season 2. So this has been a lot of time shared, and a lot of energy and commitment put into this project, and we'd grown to really love and respect each other like a family. And so when we saw that the end was so near, it was very charged set, and as it was, everybody would have like a different wrap day. It was like Rick died in the episode previous, so there was that, and then like someone would get wrapped on the Tuesday. We were shooting like the whole thing wrapped on Friday, and like it was a goodbye every day basically, which I know you all know how excruciating goodbyes are. So it was an emotional ride, definitely, that last week. But everyone felt really good about it. You know, we all were very proud to have done this little show.
Thanks.
Hi.
I was just wondering. Really big fan. What was your favourite dog to play? Was it K-19 or was it Dyson in Lost Girl?
Well, you know, the Russian nuclear lost doggy strapped to the front of a submarine. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. There was a lot of vomiting, which was really fun to play.
Who else was in that movie?
Some wonderful actors, some of them that hail from Britain, I believe. But one grizzly old American named Harrison Ford. Yeah.
And can you just take your top off?
Only you take your pants off. Includes the fantastic Paul Amos. Thanks, Brett.
Wow, he missed you.
Morning.
Hello, Kenzie.
How are you?
I'm alright, how you doing?
So my question for you today is, how different is it going from Captain Canuck in a sound booth to going to Lost Girl and Underworld on set? And which one do you prefer?
Well, actually, yeah, it was. We just recorded the first episode of, I guess you'd call it, season 2 of our web series for Captain Canuck, and I'd actually been in the sound booth all spring doing Assassin's Creed, where Hal Con was doing this very big British sort of thing like this, very threatening, and I got in, and then of course Dyson too, who's kind of growly. And I got into the sound booth, and I could see the director out there. This is for Captain Canuck, and he's kind of looking at me, and he's like, he's not quite sure what's happening, and because I'm not really conscious of it either. It's just, you know, there's a lot of character transference as you go through, like just little things that like stick to you. And it took about 10-15 minutes for me to like sort of wake up the Captain Canuck voice and the Captain Canuck character, because I just would go towards these more like dramatically sort of growly sort of character-y tones. But as far as what's fun, I mean, Assassin's Creed was a real surprise in how fun mocap actually is. Because we actually acted out all that stuff. It's not just our voices over top of animated characters. Those characters are animated over top of our bodies that we did every scene mocap for. So, in the process of mocap is you walk into a room, sort of space, and they call it the volume. It's maybe about 30 feet high, and about half the size of this room, but it's like all wrapped around with 1,000 infrared cameras that pick up the balls. And so at any given time, they can choose where they would want to put the camera, because they just have a full three-dimensional rendering of you. And so as an actor, it became very interesting because, one, when you're doing film, you know they're going to edit it. They're going to take this close-up from that. They're going to take, you can kind of work with the edit or work with the edit as you're shooting. But in mocap, it's very expensive for them to cut into a scene. I don't know why particularly. It was explained to me, and it was very technical. It's like, well, stitching one thing to another with a computer is actually very difficult, and you can't cut, which I thought you would be able to. But apparently the computers just see it as one big, large information stream. And if you want to cut into something, it's hard. So what that means is, one, you have to nail it in one take. You can't mess it up. And so I was the monologuing bad guy. So I would have 2 pages of monologue, and there would be like 10 other people in the scene. And every time any of them screwed up a little thing, I had to start back at the beginning. And so I went in the day, I'm like gung-ho, I'm like ready to go, full energy, take 1, let's do it, okay? Take 10, take 2, 3, up to take 10, and finally it all started like gelling, and all the performances started getting together. And like, I'm not trying to say it, but I hit every one of those 10, and then I started getting tired.
Yeah.
And it was a real lesson in, oh, I see how this works. This is like, you have to pace yourself, and then save the good takes till the end. But the discipline it takes to do that is very much like theater, so it was a really interesting mix between film and theater. And I would totally do it again, because also you get to play these characters that are so much, you don't have to worry about how you look. They're going to animate something completely